Welcome to episode 3 of Success Council. In the first 2 videos, we covered why Success Council was created and how it was built to achieve those aims. Today, we're going to talk about indoctrination through schools and universities in our society. Recently, I saw a debate between Michael Prysner, a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and Wayne Allen Root, a 2012 Libertarian candidate for president. I was struck by the contradiction of Michael, the socialist, during this interview. He was eloquent and seemed reasonably intelligent. Yet almost everything he said made no sense. I can best describe it this way: very angry and devoid of logic. This, not being my first rodeo, I immediately recognized it as a severe case of indoctrination. Now, high school and media are good at indoctrination, but this guy was in deep. I bet myself that he must at least have a bachelor's in some social science degree and probably a post-grad. To test my theory, I looked him up, and there on his Facebook page, a degree in anthropology from Florida Atlantic University. Pretty good, huh? Okay, I got it wrong about the post-grad, but still. Now, in a minute, we're going to dissect the interview and reveal the indoctrination so that you can learn what is going on right now at universities and schools across the planet. You'll see how to spot it and become far more skilled at helping people out of their indoctrination hell. When you watch the interview, your jaw may hit the ground hearing how silly he sounds. But I really want to make the point that lack of intelligence is not Michael's problem. In fact, I think you'll find his IQ quite high. His challenge is simply indoctrination. So let's look at some other things that I noticed while Googling him. He is an Army vet with active service in the Middle East. During his tours, he figured out that the war, or as he correctly calls it, an occupation, is a complete hoax. He realized its purpose was to transfer hundreds of billions of dollars from the U.S. lower and middle class to the banking and military-industrial cartels. He also correctly saw the injustice in the U.S. occupying foreign lands and the horrific cost in human life to both sides of the battle. So, what do we know about Michael? 1. At the time he signed up for military service, he was indoctrinated with the fact that the war was just and important to the defense of the United States. 2. Therefore, he was willing to risk his life to defend his country and bring freedom to the Middle East. And 3. Upon realizing the war is an unjust hoax, he dedicated a lot of his time and energy to ending it with protests at Occupy Wall Street and other movements. From this, I think it is clear Michael has a genuine love for his fellow man, wants to serve humanity, is very brave, and has an above-average IQ. So now let's look at this interview and see what we can learn from it. The first question directed to Michael, representative of the Party of Socialism, is...
So, in one sentence or less, what is socialism? Michael, I want to start with you.
Sure. Socialism means that the vast wealth produced by this country, produced by this society, by so many tens of millions of hardworking families, that wealth be actually put in the hands of those people that create it and used to meet human needs here at home, to fund housing, to fund jobs, to fund health care,
all right, that's one
education, to fund all the things.
Now, to me, that sounds like a definition for liberty, and there's a reason for that. It's an ambiguous answer because the useful piece is missing. Maybe a definition of socialism might be: socialism means that the vast wealth produced by this country, produced by this society, by so many tens of millions of hardworking families, that wealth be actually put in the hands of those people that create it, by the force of government, as determined by the government, and used to meet human needs here at home to fund X, Y, Z. Everything Michael said in his definition is just his perception of what will occur if he lives in a socialist society. If you grant the same latitude, my definition of liberty might be that the vast wealth produced by this country, produced by this society, by so many tens of millions of hardworking families, that wealth be actually put in the hands of those people that create it, by the consumers voluntarily, and used to meet human needs here at home to fund X, Y, Z. So everything in Michael's definition for socialism can be used equally in a definition for liberty, freedom, individualism, or capitalism. Whatever you want to call it. In fact, it can be used in the definition for fascism, communism, or any other ism for that matter. While you may think, oh well, he didn't have time to prepare an answer, and so he could have said it better. He is the representative of the Party for Socialism, so of course he knows what socialism is. As you will find out in the next few minutes. Actually, he doesn't. His definition for socialism is anything good, and his definition for liberty is anything bad. This is how he got indoctrinated. This is why he is so clearly passionate about socialism. With that definition, it's no wonder. This is a great lesson in the power of indoctrination. He could talk for hours on the virtue of socialism, hold rallies, get invited on TV to discuss it, all while having no idea what it means. So it's important for our purposes to give a clear definition of socialism and liberty so we can analyze what is said later in the interview. Socialism is when the state has the authority to take from some citizens and give to other citizens. In a phrase, it has the power to redistribute wealth. Liberty is the inverse. The state does not have the power to take from some to give to others. The government cannot redistribute wealth. It's important to understand that what we perceive as, quote, good and bad behavior are human traits. And as both socialist and libertarian societies have humans in them, then both good and bad exist in both. For example, in a socialist society, we may see the state take from a wealthy person and give a meal to a starving child, and we may label that as good and virtuous. Equally, in a libertarian society, we may see a person give their own food to a starving child and label that as a good and virtuous act. Negative examples are easy to conjure up as well. The good or bad of it does not make it socialist or libertarian. The how decides that. Was it the state, through threat of forceful punishment, that accomplished the deed? Or was it through voluntary individual action? So now, let's listen to Michael later in the interview and find out if he really understands what socialism and liberty is.
And there is a massive amount of theft going on in this country, but it's the big capitalists that are stealing from all of these working families in this country. We make this country the richest country in the world. There's so much wealth here, and it's all being sucked up by a tiny group of billionaires and their multimillionaire puppets in Washington. There is a vast amount of theft going on, and it's coming out of our pockets and going into the pockets of the richest people on the planet. We're talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars, over $11 trillion that was stolen from us, that is a product of our labor, that was our tax money, that was handed to the richest people on the planet because they couldn't pay their debts.
So, he has correctly identified that the banking cartel has stolen trillions of dollars from the working class in the U.S. He acknowledges that it was taken from the people through taxes and given to the cartel by government. But the confusing part is that he thinks this is a product of capitalism. If the definition of socialism is that the government takes from some and gives to others, and the definition of liberty or capitalism is that the government cannot, how can you look at this and think capitalism is to blame? Or better yet, how can you not see that is socialism? The reason? He has been indoctrinated with the following definition. Anything bad is capitalism. Anything good is socialism. There is another example of indoctrination in that clip that sadly over 90% of the planet has successfully been indoctrinated with. And that is if a person is rich or greedy, they're capitalists. Of course, that's silly. Look at Stalin, Mao, Castro, and any other socialist leader. When millions of their people were starving to death because of their bad planning, did they go without any meals? Did they sell any of their cars or palaces to make sure their people were fed? Of course not. They were greedy socialists. And of course, there are such things as greedy capitalists. But being greedy does not make you a capitalist. If you took a poll of your friends and asked them if the heads of the organizations like Chase, Citibank, HSBC, the Federal Reserve, and Goldman Sachs were capitalists or socialists, it's sad to say they would nearly all think they're capitalists. But let's test the theory. Do they seek special privileges from government and ask them to chase away competition? Absolutely. Banks have been given the monopoly on printing paper money at will in all first world nations' currencies. Any losses incurred are passed on to the taxpayer through the government bailout system. And they make the cost of compliance for a bank charter extraordinarily high to keep away competition. Is their political preference towards more socialist-leaning politicians or more libertarian ones? Well, they are the top donators to both Romney and Obama in the 2012 election, and both politicians advocate taking from some to give to others. As long as people are silly enough to vote for someone with this viewpoint, they're happy, because they know they can buy them. If they were capitalists, wouldn't they support the most capitalist libertarian of the candidates, like Ron Paul? After all, once they got the government off their back, they could make some serious money, right? Of course not. They need government to protect their monopolies and grant them special privileges. They hate free markets. They hate liberty because they can't use the coercive power of government to stack the rules in their favor. Under liberty, they cannot get the state to steal trillions of dollars off the working class to give to them. They need a socialist government for that. And finally, I just want to show you one more exchange. First, here's Michael's reply to what is said.
Michael, what do you think about this?
Well, I think I'd be doing a disservice to our viewers if I didn't call you out for being a complete racist for your demonization of all the undocumented families who are forced to come to this country to work because of the economic policies imposed on their countries. I also think...
Okay, calling someone a racist, that's a pretty big deal. Here's the entire clip. See if you can spot a racist comment in there.
Christine, I'm impressed. You did your homework. Very good. You get an A in my exam. I graduated Columbia University class of '83 with Barack Obama, my classmate. We were both pre-law, political science majors. I planned to be a presidential candidate in 2012 running against Barack Obama as a libertarian third-party candidate. I called it before we ever had the 2008 election. I said pretty much every classmate I ever had at Columbia University was either a communist, a socialist, or a Marxist. They hated America. They hated capitalism. They hated anyone who made money, any CEO who runs a company they were antagonistic towards. And you see what you get with Barack Obama. I did, in fact, write a piece called Barack Obama Purposely Overwhelming the Capitalist System to try and destroy our economy, hurt small business, which contributes all the money to conservative candidates, so to hurt his opposition and make sure there's no money for opposition candidates, and to socialize America. And I think I called it right on the money. Every day, not a day goes by where you don't see, whether it's Obamacare, cap and trade, card check to unionize the whole country, making Puerto Rico the 51st state, legalizing 12 million illegal immigrants who are all going to vote Democrat for a socialist nation filled with handouts to make government bigger. Everything Obama wants is to simply make this a socialist nation and kill people like me. I'm not a big businessman. I'm a small businessman. I've never had a company with more than 100 employees. Everything I do is small business, and Obama wants to kill the people that fund Republican, conservative, and libertarian causes.
Michael, what do you think about this?
Well, I think I'd be doing a disservice to our viewers if I didn't call you out for being a complete racist for...
No, I didn't spot the racist comment either. The racist card was only raised as a red herring emotional reaction. In fact, Wayne gives a great response to this. So here it is.
Are you a racist?
Yeah, I think that's kind of funny. You know, what's great about Obama is that he's brought all this out of the closet. Everybody now laughs when people call a conservative a racist. Tell your guests that his news is old news. You know what the definition of a racist is? Anyone who's winning an argument with a liberal or a socialist.
So poor old Michael is 0 for 3. He doesn't know what capitalism, racism, or socialism is. My heart goes out to Michael. As I said at the beginning, he was a victim of indoctrination that caused a brave and caring man to risk his life in the Middle East to serve the evil banking cartels and military-industrial complex. This was probably achieved by a torrent of emotionally charged words and definitions like, sand monkeys and towheads are terrorists and want to take away your freedom. Thanks to his intelligence and first-hand experience, he beat most of that indoctrination and saw the evil for what it is. I say most because he still thinks he lives in a free or capitalist country, which muddies the waters for him. When the average worker works for 12 months of the year and 5 go to pay the government, that's not freedom. That's socialism. He believes he is free because he's been told he is free so many times. After returning home, he wanted to get an education to improve himself and his ability to contribute to the world. Unknowingly, he sent himself to an indoctrination camp. For years, he received another torrent of emotionally charged words and definitions. Greedy people are capitalists. Caring and generous people support socialism. If you don't support taking from some to give to minorities, you're a racist. The more eloquently he recited the slogans, the better his grades got. Having graduated, he has once again been duped into working for the forces of evil. Demanding the government have more power to take from some and give to others is playing right into their hands. The more powerful the state, the easier it is for greedy people to steal trillions of dollars from others. One look at Washington tells you that. In fact, under freedom and liberty, the only way greedy people can get rich is to provide so much value that their fellow man voluntarily gives them money in exchange for the value they have added. There's an old adage. If you're not a socialist by the time you're 20, you have no heart. If you're still one at 30, you have no brain. Michael is 28 years old. I have faith that Michael's intellect will help him see this indoctrination for what it is. And when it does, Michael's passion and willingness to work hard and fight the man will be a tremendous force for good. Michael, if you ever watch this, when you're ready to be educated instead of indoctrinated, I would love to give you a free membership to Success Council. Look out for our next video as we talk about the Audit the Fed bill presently going through Congress at the moment.